She offers support that it really does feel like coming home to yourself.
Human design is really a map that brings you back to who you are, that gives you permission and sort of validates these things that you've always sort of felt were true. If you're shooting all over yourself, you're going to feel shame. You're to trust yourself more than anyone else.
All right, friends. While I was inviting our next expert on, as I'm looking through her amazing portfolio and resume, our mission statements could literally be intersected for one another and intertwined, because Jenna is also about supporting women. She is a work and well-being coach and a human design expert whose passion is supporting women and helping them align with their natural rhythms and create a flow state. Does this sound familiar? She just does it with human design, where I do it with longevity practices, fitness, wellness, and the 6 pillars. She really helps women get out of resistance and into flow. She offers support that it really does feel like coming home to yourself. It also can help us understand our interpersonal relationships with anyone from partners to clients. Jenna is a world-renowned expert, and through her business, The Resiliency Lab, she has up-leveled the lives of so many women, including myself. From my first one-to-one session with Jenna, I just felt an exhale of relief at a little bit deeper understanding of why I operate in the world in a way that feels natural to me, that maybe society doesn't always understand. So Jenna, tell us a little bit, first of all, what is human design? Is it a religion? Is it a coping mechanism? Like all of these kind of myths we hear. Tell us a little bit about what human design is.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for that amazing introduction. And yeah, it's so interesting how our purpose aligns, and we're just doing it in manifesting it in different ways.
Yeah.
So human design, it's really interesting because I do think human design gets a bad rap. And I think a lot of people will roll their eyes and kind of get turned off as soon as they hear that it's based on their time and place of birth, which I think is it's really unfortunate, because as you said, it's not a religion. It's not something to believe in. It's a practical
Predictive
tool.
tool.
No,
I remember you saying that. This is not a predictive tool. This is not a psychic reading.
no. Well, I even feel like astrology has a little of that predictiveness to it. Like you read your, astrology reading for that month, and it's like, this is what's going to happen. That's not what human design is. Human design is really, I like to think of it as a map that brings you back to who you are, that gives you permission and sort of validates these things that you've always sort of felt were true, but maybe didn't give yourself full permission to step into, that allows you to just operate in a way that works best for you.
Yeah, and then there are very specific human design archetypes. I am a generator,
Yeah.
which I had no idea what that meant until I worked with Jenna. And man, it's really been enlightening and empowering. Can you go over just the archetypes of human design?
Yeah. So the archetypes that Elise is referring to is really type, which is the first sort of most essential step of human design, or it's the first piece. And if it's the only piece, it's still an incredible amount of information to have, but it is important to know it's just the first piece. If you're a generator like Elise, it doesn't mean you're going to be just like Elise.
Right.
There are so many other
Individuality.
things. Yeah, there's so many other pieces to the design that sort of inform and add nuance and all of those things, and can in some ways, like there are certain things in your chart that can make you feel at times like a different archetype. So that's just something to keep in mind. So there are 5 types in human design: generators, manifesting generators. Those 2 are the most common, followed by projectors, manifestors, and reflectors. And reflectors are the rarest. They only make up about 1% of the population. But I'm happy to talk a little bit about each if you'd like.
Yeah,
Make sure
just
that,
like a
yeah.
And what's
Yes.
amazing about what Jenna does is when she does your human design, you will get a chart that looks like quantum physics. And
Yeah, it does.
you will really get, it's kind of like, what you're about to get now is an overview. Like if I was coaching you and just said, eat well and move well, right? So this
Yeah.
is a very general overview, but I think it is helpful and can intrigue us to want to dig a little deeper into utilizing our human design as a tool to help us in our lives.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. Something you just said made me want to go back to what is human design, because you said that the chart looks like quantum physics. And that's the fascinating thing about human design. It is a combination of a lot of tools, from the chakra system to the I Ching to the Kabbalah to Eastern and Western astrology and quantum physics, like all of those things married together in this one system. So it's quite complex, and the whole purpose of the work I do with my clients is to help make it more digestible, practical, and not overwhelming, because it can be very overwhelming. Yeah.
And this is a through line for me and the guests that I choose and what I do too. Like you can have a general overview of longevity, which is nutrition and diet and the other 6 pillars, and then you can have the specific medical where women feel like they have to calculate everything they eat and everything
Right.
and that's just overwhelming and not a way I want to live. And it's the same
Right.
with what you do is that you make it digestible and applicable, right? Action items that are actually making a difference in our lives that we can actually implement right away, which is,
That's the dream.
yeah, that's the dream.
That's
That's
the
the dream.
dream.
Immediate
That's the dream.
implementation.
Um, so going back to type, I'll start and talk a little bit about your type first, the generator. Because generators are really magnetic, warm, inviting, enveloping individuals, especially when they are prioritizing their satisfaction, when they're saying yes to things because these are things that are lighting them up and they are excited by, that they feel like they have the energy for now, right? That's sort of a miracle question for generators. Do I have the energy and excitement for this now? If the answer is no, pass.
Yes, so important. I think as someone who was raised as somewhat of a people pleaser and an
Mm-hmm.
achiever, I was taught, well, this is the way. It's PhD or medical school or law school. Those are your options, and I like never fit into those options. And yeah, it's really interesting that when I ask myself, what do I have the energy and excitement for? It's like a full body response almost. And it's helped me make business decisions asking that question rather than like, well, what are the analytics of how this might work for me or what are the pros and cons? It's more of a full body heart feeling. Yeah.
Yeah, which is exactly how you're meant to make decisions, right? Um, I think what's so interesting about generators, and this is true for manifesting generators too, is that you do have the energy to go, 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 if you're prioritizing your satisfaction. Because the more lit up you are by what you're doing and how you're using your energy, the more energy you will have. But
Yeah.
if you're saying yes to things you really want to say no to, you're saying yes out of obligation, which I think is a challenge for most women.
It
I
is.
mean, I didn't have parents that said medical school or law school are your only choices. However, there was a very clear picture painted for me of what it meant to be a woman. And it was never put yourself first, which is the opposite. This is a big unlearning. It's taken me 15 years to like
Big.
unlearn that
It's taken me
and not
50
feel
years.
guilty. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. I
maybe,
mean,
maybe 40.
yeah. It's so I think, making sure you're not making decisions out of obligation, because all it's going to do is deplete your energy, and it will keep you from being as big and vibrant, as magnetic as you're meant to be. So
Yeah. I
that's the
remember
big
something.
thing.
Yeah, we want to be we have in order to be vibrant and magnetic, we have to feel aligned and lit up. And I remember something you said that stuck with me and I've shared and I've written all over is the word should. We really want to eliminate
Oh yeah.
that. We can't should ourselves to death. Originally, I know you said you gave some great advice. Again, Jenna gives great advice like I do, like actionable steps, get here first, then here, kind of like modifications. Step one, I remember you saying is, can you turn the should into could? That's step
Yeah.
one. And then
Yeah.
as you become advanced, you turn that could into want to.
Yeah.
That was really powerful for me. Just the
Yeah.
change in the dialogue in my
Oh
inner.
God.
you know?
Well, because
So,
I mean, this stuff, I don't care. It's not woo-woo. It is fact.
right.
Words have energy and they impact you.
Well,
So the
science
more,
backs that up now. We have
yeah,
neuroscientist
yeah,
reports, scientific reports that tell us this is not hippy dippy yoga, human
right.
design stuff. Yeah.
No, absolutely. The words that we use impact our experience. So if you're shooting all over yourself, you're going to feel shame. You're going to feel lethargic. You're going to feel like a victim. Things are happening to you, right? But if you're using the word could, you're opening yourself up to possibility. And
Yeah.
want
I love
is
that.
focus, intention, right?
Yeah. And
So,
simple frame.
yeah, I mean, that's the biggest, like, for anyone who's looking to make a change in your life, eradicate should. That will change your life if you're able to do that. So should we talk about manifesting
Yeah.
generators a little bit? Yeah. Okay. So manifesting generators and generators do have a lot of similarities. The same thing goes for them in terms of prioritizing satisfaction, putting their energy into things that really light them up, and having that go, go, go. The biggest difference between the two is generators tend to bring like a masterful energy to everything they do, like sort of a focus. They like to go deep into things, where not always, but a lot of the time generators will have like a deep focus in their career. They won't pivot as much, where a manifesting generator can be all over the place, and manifesting generators really need to have a multitude of things going on at once, where generators may prefer to concentrate on one thing at a time. So, I was saying this earlier today, that what does that look like in my daily calendar, right? And how I'm working throughout my day. So a generator may prefer to block off 3 hours of time to go deep into a project. Mm-hmm. Where a manifesting generator will be like, no, I'm going to spend 15 minutes doing that, another 20 doing this, maybe an hour doing that, but then I'm going to jump back to this. And they need that kind of. See, for me, I think, oh God, if I only have one, I'm a manifesting generator. So if I have only one thing going on, oh my God, I'm going to be bored out of my mind. So it's really interesting how the experience is so different.
Yeah.
And I think the hard thing that manifesting generators can feel as a result of this, needing, a lot of things going on at once. And it may even mean they have a side hustle, like they're doing their job, but they have a side hustle and it's like 17 different hobbies. But which is not how it manifests for me, by the way. But to other people, they can look scattered, but it's actually the thing that lights them up. So for me, it's just like in a work environment, I've always liked being able to wear a million different hats. Like, don't tell me to focus on one thing because I'm going to be bored. Put me in a position where I can put my fingers into everything and influence other things. I come alive. So that's really the biggest. Yeah. Well,
like I've never been drawn to directing people because there's too many things in play.
No, I love it. Yes, I do. I do love that. And I think this is why too, even in the work I do now, like I like having different offerings and different ways to work with people because it's a different experience for me too.
Yeah. Totally,
which keeps it like more exciting for me. So the next archetype for us to talk about is the projector. And the projectors are kind of like the orchestrators in the world. They are the natural leaders, teachers, and guides. And, like you mentioned earlier, human design is not a predictive tool. It's not that generators and manifesting generators can't be leaders or guides. It's just their approach to it is going to be different. For projectors, they have this penetrating quality where they can really like sort of see into someone else's energy and help them figure out how to best use it. Right.
Wow.
Yeah. And so like, and what's really impactful for projectors is for them to meet with people one-on-one, because they have this ability to go deep and to really be able to make people feel seen and heard and recognized and valued. Right. So whether you're, again, whether it's a family situation or working in, a team environment, like having those one-on-one meetings or one-on-one conversations with the different people in the community is really important to keep everybody sort of uplifted.
Yeah.
The biggest difference between projectors and then generators and manifesting generators is that their energy ebbs and flows. So they don't have the same energy to go, go, go all day long.
Yeah.
And to make peace with that, because it's really important for them to prioritize rest and their own well-being, really putting their oxygen mask on first. I mean, that is important for everybody, but it's particularly important for projectors because their energy is precious. So they want to protect it and only share it with people who are asking for it.
That's really interesting. And I think, a general rule for everyone, right, is protecting our energy and only investing in energy that's reciprocal. But for this archetype, it's even more important.
It's more important. The more valued that they feel, the more seen that they feel. I mean, that's the gift they give to other people too, the more energy they will have. So if they're in circumstances where they're not feeling valued or appreciated, it's going to be more of an energy drain. So that's super important. And again, to feel, not put them in a place where they feel like they have to keep up with everybody around them, because their gifts are different. They bring a value and an efficiency that others can't.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
so interesting. And one of the other cool things about human design is you can do it for your partner, friends, or colleagues. And I was like 100% convinced that my husband Nolan would be a projector because he is very enlivening and lifts me up and also takes on the energy of people. But he's actually a generator. And Jenna gave me some great advice in our session on how to communicate better with two generators. More on that later. But yeah, it's just really interesting. And then there's two more types. Is that right?
Yes. Yes. So next we have manifestors, and manifestors are like, I like to think of them as being the rebels. They're the disruptors. They're the innovators. What's that?
I said it's always good to be a disruptor. I think you and I are
Oh
kind
yeah.
of doing that in our fields too, right? Like
Yeah.
redefining what it means to be a woman. We're disrupting the current I'm, disrupting the current dialogue about what it means to age as a woman, how we can do that powerfully. That sometimes, what's always been the status quo in fitness or nutrition has been and continues to be wrong, right?
Right.
Diet culture and things. And for you, the same thing, helping women in particular really elevate and embrace who they are. And like you said, it's different than how other people are going to show up. And when we can honor our differences, it really can make a huge impact on our quality of life.
Yeah. Yeah. So, manifestors, it's interesting. They like disruption for them too. It's really about giving themselves permission to do things in their own way, not in the way people have done it before. Like there is a freedom there for them. And for manifestors, it's really important, not that they ask for permission, that's not part of their process, but that they inform people of what they're doing. And the reason they want to do that is like their energy, it impacts the people around them. It actually also sorts like who's for me and who isn't, because manifestors are not for everybody, right? And that's a good thing. But people can feel their action. And so you want to inform them of what you're doing before you're doing it for a couple of reasons. The really biggest reason is so that you don't get interrupted. You don't want to start doing something and then have someone walk in the room and be like, what? You just left the room and you didn't tell me what you're doing. What are you doing? Because that will set a manifestor off, like interruption of any kind. So again, just being really, it just makes everything go more smoothly when
Yeah.
you inform, not ask for permission, but follow again your internal knowing of what is the right action for you and what is the right way to do it.
So, yeah.
Their energy will ebb and flow as well, but differently than a projector. A projector's energy ebbs and flows in the course of a day. So again, figuring out as a projector, what your workflow looks like. It could look like, hey, I'm only going to work 6 hours a day and I'm going to stop my work at 4 p.m. Or it might look like taking several breaks throughout the day. That's for each projector to kind of figure out what works best for them. For manifestors, the ebb and flow comes weeks at a time. So they can have weeks where they're just on fire and just getting like so much done. And then a week where they don't want to get off the couch. And so I think that bit of information is really important to understand, because they may go through those periods with like, what is wrong with me? Like, am I
Right.
psychotic? Why am I sometimes like on fire and other times like I just don't feel like doing anything? It's just part of the process.
Part of
And
the,
like,
we have a different process. Yeah.
yeah, and typically like that slowing down part is part of the process of like, what's the next thing I'm here to disrupt? It's like there's like a recalibration that's happening to kind of inform what the next big like push is for the manifester.
Yeah. It's interesting because this all parallels wellness too, right? For women, there's times in our cycle when we should be doing more restorative kind of movement. And then
Sure.
there's times in our cycle where we really go for it. Same with life. Like if we don't prioritize rest, it's the resting is the nesting, the seeding, the opportunity to reset so that your next move can be more powerful, whether that's in human design or in business or it's in your life. I think women have been conditioned that it's lazy to rely, or in my experience, 25 years of coaching women, a lot of us feel lazy when we're not
Yes.
learning something, doing something,
Yes.
someone creating something, building something, earning something, and I think that in particular, it sounds like for this human design, that can be a really detrimental societal norm that they have
Yes.
to overcome.
Yes. And
Yeah.
listen, there are different parts. Like I said, we're talking very high level, but there are different parts of design, right? Like,
Where you can really dig deep on the layers of your individual human design. Just
and
like you might
yes,
be a Scorpio, but what does that mean to you, right?
sure, sure.
Or you
Well,
might be a Christian, but what does that mean to you?
right,
Yeah.
right, right. But like understanding like what is it that I need
Yeah.
to really be able to unleash my unique potential. And like, even if you're a generator or a manifesting generator, you may need time to do
Yeah.
nothing, to
Yeah.
stare out the window and dream.
Give that permission.
No, that's like part of your process, to give
Yeah.
yourself that creative space to just let your brain go wild. You
Yeah.
know, it may be. And so like, yes, to know that, to make peace with that and not feel guilty for it is so important, right?
Yeah.
That's
It
what I
really
think is so powerful
And
about this
it's
stuff.
interesting. I've talked to because Jenna and I also share a healer that we work with, and at one, I'm like, I'm really fired up about this. I mean, this conversation I could have for hours and hours in a flow state, learning from you, sharing with you, your wisdom with other people. But I'm in a phase now where even Nolan, my husband, asked me, he's like, I'm slightly concerned you're not really going out and socializing that much right now. I'm like, honestly, I think I've healed my way out of a lot of like big, overwhelming social situations because I get so much light and I feel so lit up doing this that I'm like, oh yes. I mean, I think I'm just in a place where I'm creating and then I'll explore out back into the real world at another
Yeah.
time.
You
To
know,
your
there's a
point.
piece of your design that I remember, and I remember it because you and I have it in common. And we didn't talk about it in our reading, but I'll mention it now because it kind of speaks to what you're going through. Like, and tell me how this resonates for you. But like, you can go through periods of extremes.
Yes. I mean, that's 100%.
Yeah. So
100%.
that, and then you may feel like, oh, sometimes I can't stick to a routine.
Yeah.
But like that's part of your learning, and the extremes are all about helping you figure out what it is that I need now. Not that you need to whatever to, I beat myself all up all the time for not meditating every day.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But
That's
what
why
will happen?
I do 5-minute meditations because I
Yes,
do them while
same.
I brush my teeth. And I'm like, I don't need to sit and to meditate. I do something habitual that I know how to do that I've been doing for 50 years. And I listen to my affirmation, today I did, I am awesome because I woke up not feeling that awesome. I mean, just
Yeah.
woke up kind of, unsure. And then
Well, you can't tell
yeah,
from
well,
where
thank
I'm
you.
sitting.
Thank you. Well, but that's because literally 5 minutes later I do it. But I literally created those as someone who felt embarrassed as a yoga teacher who didn't like to sit and meditate for 30 minutes.
I love
I,
that.
I just,
Oh, I love
and I
that.
thought, oh, well, if this is for me and I enjoy the benefits of meditating, I'm guessing there's other women out there who feel the same. And then you're just resistant because you're like,
Yeah.
well, I can't meditate. And you tell yourself that story and then you're done,
Well,
so.
see, so like this is the work, right? I mean, this is the work that I just happen to use human design for. You're doing it in other ways, right? But it's like, how do we deprogram or decondition from the way that we've been taught to do things? Like I have to sit in meditation like this for 30 minutes and figure out, no, the way that works best for me, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So the extreme piece too, like it can be an indicator. Like, so for me, when I don't meditate, even for 5 minutes, for weeks, that's like, oh, I'm off. Like, it's the driver that keeps bringing me back to it. Do you know what
Interesting.
I'm
Yes,
saying?
absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
sometimes you won't come back to the thing.
Yeah. Maybe it's
But
the socializing for me because right now,
right,
you know what? Thank you for the invite to your 12-person birthday dinner, but I need to do my sauna and cold plunge. I'll take you out for a tea, a matcha tomorrow morning,
right,
right? Like
right.
I'm just like, oh,
Yes,
something starts after 5 p.m. That's just
yes.
really not in my life right now. And then one day I'll probably be like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen human beings in real life for a while. Maybe I should get back out there.
You know what's fascinating? I learned, I've always called myself an introverted extrovert. I think I was raised in a house that
Yeah.
that really valued extroversion and not introversion, right?
Wow. Yeah.
And so I think for a long period of time I was living as an extrovert, even though I am an introvert.
Same.
And it is clear in my human design that I am an introvert. And it wasn't until I really learned about my human design and my learning process that I
Mhm.
made peace with that. But it took a really long time.
We are so similar. And if you don't know, another upcoming YouTube guest will be Christy Christensen, who is Jenna's sister. I've known both of them for more than 2 decades, 20 plus years,
Yeah.
which is odd since we are all just 28 years old
Right.
in body. We're biologically aging backwards.
Right.
I won't give away their ages, but we're all about
Right.
the same. But Jenna, like, even though Christy is my friend who lives locally, who I see much more often, I feel like Jenna and I have much more similarities. I
That's
mean,
funny. Yeah.
and all of these things you're sharing, they really resonate because yeah,
Yeah.
the same. I always thought I was an extrovert. I did recharge around the company of people for a while, and maybe I was, and now I've shifted, but definitely feel now I would call myself an extroverted introvert, which means
Yeah.
when occasion allows for it, I enjoy things. I enjoy big events, and maybe it's coming off of 10 years at Beachbody where we're leading summits for 30,000 people, and there's a lot of stimulus, which is amazing. And I used to get a lot of energy from that, and then taking a moment when that part of that business ended. Now I'm like, oh, like I actually rejuvenate alone. And I mean alone
Yeah.
even without Nolan.
Yeah.
Alone,
Oh,
like
yeah.
on a walk.
Sometimes I need not even my dog around.
Yeah. I mean, Larkin's an old soul, so he's very easy to have around. Boomer, who you
Yeah.
probably see back here, is definitely some kind of generator, is a very young soul. And I need to exclude him from my
Yeah.
regenerating moments because he will like let you know if you're not giving him enough attention. He'll like
Yeah.
drag your hand to his belly rub or like, so it's all about Boomer. So yes, we have to exclude him. We know Bonnie as well. We'll just put her in a ray of sunshine on your
Yeah.
couch.
Just put her in a ray of
Yeah.
sunshine and let her give herself a heat stroke.
Bonnie is the ultimate meditation guru guy
Oh,
because she
yes.
like finds her patch of sun and just lives her best
Oh,
life.
yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah, we
It's
love it.
almost a little frightening. Okay. I know we have one more
One
archetype
more.
to talk
The
about, and
rarest
that's
one, right? I've
the
never
rarest
met
one.
anyone who knew they were this type. I'm sure I've met them, but no
Yeah. You know,
new.
it's only 1% of the population. I've only met one in
Wow.
this work. And like the woman I met is a friend, and I just asked, can I look up your chart? And like, I was like, holy shit,
And
you're,
then can I stalk you for information
yeah,
about who you are?
basically,
Yeah.
basically. But the thing that's so interesting about reflectors, so I find that there's some similarities between reflectors and projectors in that they're very sensitive
Mhm.
to other people's energy. It's just the sensitivity is different. So like where a projector is very sensitive to like that one-on-one energy with the person, reflectors feel it for communities. They feel it for families. They feel it for workplace culture. And so it can be really valuable to have a reflector on your team to really understand too. Hey, are we really living our values? Are we this company culture we've created, is it really implemented? Are we really living it? And the same thing for a family. Like, what is the state energetically of the family? Are we really as loving and accepting as we
Wow.
say we are or not?
They can hide, they can sense
They sense
the
everything, and
energy and
they've
reveal it. So if I
yes.
think, oh, I think I'm a relaxing presence to be around, turns out maybe not. How can we then take that information and adjust it in a family or work dynamic?
Yeah. Or like you might, like I've heard people call reflectors the CEO whispers, because you put them in a space and they can report back to the CEO and be like, oh yeah, no, there is tension among the team. People do not feel appreciated. You know, they're feeling like they can't communicate with one another. You know, they pick up on all of this stuff. And so you can't hide it from them, which
Yeah.
is really fascinating. So they do have leadership skills in a way that are really interesting in terms of, like, again, shaping, especially a culture, you know,
Yeah.
of a community, or, you know, or a workplace, or a family for that matter. It's really interesting in that way. And I think what's really important, you know, because I think these differences about ourselves we can be shamed for, right?
Yeah.
And because people can't hide from the sensitivity, you know, I mean, I'm sure you've had this experience in your
Oh,
life too, where they're like, no, I'm fine,
oh
no,
my
nothing's
gosh.
wrong.
Of course.
And
And
you're like, but
there's also times where you said something in one of our calls where, you were saying that there's times and places when we are around people and you are made to feel like there's something wrong with you, or, a group doesn't resonate with you. And if someone, like if you're a type that sees into people's souls and that person doesn't want their soul seen,
oh
there's
yeah,
going to be a tension or a
oh
friction.
yeah,
I think sometimes what I've learned from you that has helped me a lot is in dynamics with others. Like you said, some of the types are not for everyone, right?
yeah,
Like I
yeah,
always say that about Scorpios, which is like Scorpios were not for everyone. We're for us, the people who like passion and high
yeah,
energy. But instead of trying to fit a square peg into a round hole, can just realize, okay, so like this person doesn't want to be seen and I make them uncomfortable because I feel their energy or whatever it is. Kind of understanding, like you have shared, that everyone has a different experience, so it helps us understand ourselves, but it also helps us understand how to exist in a society of different archetypes, different beliefs, different views, and how not to internalize, like you shared, you're a disruptor in what society tells us as women we should do, where we can really and I feel like, and tell me if you've seen this in your work, but I think one of the main things that I think is very challenging for women is that we have been conditioned for centuries not to listen to our intuition. I
yes,
think women's intuition is so strong. It's like Darth Vader's very famous words when he said, "Search your heart, you know this to be true."
yeah,
And I feel that there are things that I'm like, I just have a visceral response to this. It's a full body no, but society tells me I need to do that or be this or go here or do that. And I think human design really helps us realize, oh, we can come to a peacefulness with who we are and
yeah.
disrupt the narrative.
100%. You know, I think, you know, when I think about like reflectors and again, the damage that could be done to them, or any of us really, right? Just like you said, like not like learning not to trust your gut and make that list of pros and cons. By the way, nobody's meant to make decisions with their heads, not a single type, because human
Really?
design does speak to how you're
Yeah.
meant to make decisions, because your brain can tuck you in and out of anything.
Yes. And so many of our thoughts are not the truth.
Right.
Most of them,
It's
in fact,
really,
most of our thoughts about ourselves are not the truth. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, our decision making authority is really all about trusting your intuition for some, trusting your gut for others, waiting for clarity for others, or talking it out. And
Mhm.
talking it out doesn't mean asking for advice. It means hearing yourself say the things out loud and feeling how it feels as you're saying them. And that helps you
Mhm.
make the decision, right? So none of that has anything to do with your head. And when you think about the sensitivity of a projector or really a reflector, you know, if a reflector were to go to someone, especially at a young age, and be like, this school, let's say, is uh, supporting bullying. They're not doing anything to stop, and I don't feel comfortable in it. And then a parent or a teacher or someone in authority says, you don't know what you're talking about. This is
Mhm.
actually what we're doing. It can cause them to stop listening to themselves
Exactly.
and feel,
Exactly.
and it creates the crazy making, just like
Yeah.
you said, like, I feel like I'm crazy
Yeah.
because my experience is something different than what I'm being told.
That's right.
And I think you're doing the
Gaslighting.
same
That's
kind
like
of,
the definition of gaslighting. It's not
yeah,
even intentional. Maybe the school
right.
really feels like they have a culture of anti-bullying, but
Mhm.
it doesn't make that experience, not the truth. Yeah.
Right, right.
So
And,
interesting.
I think you are doing very much the same thing. I mean, what I really feel like this work is teaching people how to trust themselves again.
Exactly. And I do that also for the physical human body, which human design is not independent from. Just like we learned our thoughts, like we shared earlier, neurologists and scientists are catching on to the fact that our thoughts and our breath actually impact our cellular health. But for the human body, it's the same thing. We go through different ebbs and flows, and we want to try. Our body will tell us this workout's too much, or oh, I everybody tells me I have to lift heavy weights for an hour a day, but you have back pain, you have neck
Right,
pain, you have joint pain, your trainers had 3 knee replacements.
right.
Maybe time to listen to your body and how
Yeah,
it's responding. Is it holding on to inflammation? Is it holding on to stress? And I think physical bodies are easier in a way to listen to because they'll get very loud,
yeah,
if it's something dangerous. But our heart and soul and intuition is a little harder to, and that's why talking to someone in human design or whatever medium is resonates with us helps us understand that, I think, and helps us tune into our intuition, because I think as women in particular, we've been so conditioned out of it, we may not even know
yeah.
what's our gut, what's our intuition, what's our head, what's our heart.
It's so true. I think that's one of the saddest things when I talk to women and ask if their decision making authority, like yours, is about trusting your gut. They have no idea what a yes or no feels like because it's
Right.
been so long since
Because
they
it's
listened for it. So it's really a relearning. I for whatever reason, even though I didn't always listen to the no's and said yes,
same.
also because society or on paper, my gut's telling me no, but on paper, this thing looks great.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly. Yeah.
I knew what it felt like. I just wasn't listening.
Right. Right. And you do that long enough and you start to listen to the paper or
Yeah.
the mansplaining or
Yeah.
the
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
podcast over what your
Exactly.
is telling you. And that's why it's
Exactly.
so amazing the work that you do, and why I wanted everyone to meet you and hear a little
Thank
bit
you.
about this amazing. I mean, I know you've called it a productivity tool, you've called it, self-awareness. If you had to like sum up human design and how it can benefit us in a sentence or two, what would you say about it?
Well, I think what we were just talking about, like, if you can learn to trust yourself more than anyone else, I think that's the greatest gift anyone can ever give you. That means no more second guessing, no more doubting.
No more
And
need external validation.
right. And I feel like we, I mean, I started on this journey, like 13 years ago. And in the last 13 years, the world has only gotten louder. Right. And it's what's thanks to this. I mean, love it and hate it. Right. But it, we, so I think the greatest gift, well, okay, two greatest gifts: connecting back to yourself, being able to trust yourself above anything else and know how to work, in a way that works best for you, to have compassion, healing those things that you're deconditioning from, but also having compassion for others because we're all so different. And it is so easy. I think, you were talking about Nolan earlier, like, God, getting married, holy cow. Isn't that like, do you learn a lot about yourself and
The
somebody
biggest
else?
trip, yeah. Or you're
And
like,
like,
"Ooh."
I'm not so nice all the time,
Yeah. Yeah,
you
that's
know?
something I realize, because when I'm doing things that light me up, I'm really lovely, and I spend 99% of my time doing things that light me up and with people who light me up. But on the occasions when I feel misaligned, or I think my pain point in my human design is frustration. Is that right? And
Yes.
my
It's the
healing point,
sign that you're off track, that you're out of
right?
alignment.
And
If it happens
feel that,
consistently. Yes.
when I
Yeah.
feel that, I'm not my highest self.
Yeah. Right.
And sometimes those are the times that I hermit, because I'm like, I'm not capable of being my highest self right now, at least having the awareness to like kind of give myself some time. But yeah, no, it is, the marriage is the ultimate personality test, right? And understanding is key. And I think you said something in let me look at my notes from our earlier
Yeah.
session, but you said something about when your partner if something that lights you up drains your partner, we need to stop asking that of them, because
Yeah.
essentially we're asking them to change or
Yeah.
pretend, and that's
Right.
going to be a detriment to the relationship. And so I think human design is also a great way to have an understanding of your partner and your, like you said, your
Yes.
colleagues, your boss, your CEO, your pastor, your kids. Like,
Yeah.
how must a kid who's a reflector feel in a world
Right.
where that's not really
Right.
understood even by their parents? So I think it
Right.
parenting, and there's
Oh
so
yeah.
many ways. And Jenna really is, I only share with you guys the best of the best. Jenna is the best of the best. So I will be sharing in the description here links so you can find her via her amazing company, the Resiliency Lab, which I think is such a great name too.
Thanks.
When I had a business expert on My Business Coach, Courtney Burton, talking about branding and storytelling. But that word resiliency, one of the mini courses that I teach and offer, it's a self-contained evergreen course, but it's all about emotional resiliency and really
Mm.
for women, so that we can, no matter what disruptions are going on around us, we can create that emotional resiliency. So I think that that's such a great, and lab indicates that you're actually going to do something. You're going to create something. You're
Yeah, and it's about experimenting, and that's
Yes.
what human design is. It's a lifelong experiment of like
Like
getting,
life is the ultimate
yes,
experiment. Yeah.
yeah, into alignment, and like being resilient enough to keep coming back to the table.
That's
Because
right.
we're all going to make mistakes. We're all going to screw up. We're all going to get out of alignment. It's going to happen. We're going to
Yeah.
go back to old patterns. It's just part of it. But
Yeah.
like just remembering to like learn from the mistake. What's the seeing the opportunity in a challenge, and like coming back the next day, because we all like, I feel like 90%, maybe higher, of the American population is suffering from burnout of some
Oh yeah.
degree,
Oh,
right?
a
And
hundred.
I'm just over it. I've suffered it from it for too long myself. And like that's why my work it's changed over the years. From like, I used to call myself the ambition architect. I don't do that anymore, because
Yeah.
I'm really thinking about, no, how do we balance work and well-being? Because
That's
we can.
we can. And the title
Yeah.
that I have been using through, talking to people and stuff is actually Vitality Architect.
Oh,
So
funny.
I love the word
Interesting.
architect
Yeah.
because it's someone who designs something, but then it's implemented by someone else almost,
Hmm.
right? The
Hmm.
architect doesn't build
Yes.
the
No,
building
they
or
don't build
build
it.
the
Right.
building. I love the word architect because it also says, I'm going to give you a plan. I'm going to give you like a blueprint. But for me, it's about vitality. It's not about having, I mean, yes, you're probably going to get shredded abs. Yes, you're going to have, but the idea of, that's why I call it like eating for vitality, or an aligned eating protocol. It's not a diet. It's not a fad. It's not restricting things. And I think that's such an interesting distinction, because ambition, while I think people like us, in the past would see that as a very positive thing. And I still think ambition is positive, but the societal connotations of ambition are burnout, draining,
Yes.
overworking, just like the society, like obviously success is a very positive term if we view success as great relationships, happiness, making a difference in the world. But if we view success as billions in our bank account, then it's a very detrimental
Yes. Yes. No,
philosophy.
I'm so glad you made that distinction, because I have nothing. I mean, I'm ambitious, but I
Yeah,
think there's so much of that language out there already.
that we need a new language. It's almost
We
like
just need
we
to
need a new
remember
language. Yes.
we can be ambitious, but also without sacrificing our well-being. And I think, again, like you said, specifically for women, like
Yeah.
we sacrifice our well-being for a lot,
For a lot. Yeah. And I
not
don't even
just work,
children. So
not
forget
just
about
work.
women with children and
Yes,
jobs.
exactly.
Like, I have nieces and nephews who I love, and obviously the fur children that we've
Yeah.
talked about, but I can't even imagine for moms
Yeah.
the feeling of sacrifice
Yes.
for children. And so these are all things that why we come together and why we learn things and why we support one another. And Jenna, thank you so much for your time and your expertise,
Thank
your
you.
insights. I
Thanks
was
for
sharing
having me.
earlier, Jenna came into my Limitless Life group, and I was sharing just like the sheer number of
Oh my
notes.
God, look at those notes
And I
and your
have,
handwriting. Oh my God, it's
this is page
perfect.
1 of my planner. I keep it here so that if I'm feeling frustrated, which is my disalignment, I look, okay, here's what I need to do. It's okay that I'm going to take a little hiatus right now or whatever it is. So I just really encourage everyone, have Jenna's information here, and pop in the comments because we'd love to hear from you. First of all,
Yes.
we'll put in somewhere where people can find their own human design. There's a website.
Yes.
You just enter your
It's
4
free.
Oh,
It's
it's
easy.
free. You can find out what you are and then tell us in the comments, what is your human design? Tag Jenna, tag myself, and we can get this dialogue going, how we can support.
Can we ask people too, where they experience the most resistance in their life?
Ooh, that's a great question. Write in the comments where you are experiencing the most resistance in your life. Isn't that amazing to identify it first, because knowledge is power, and then how can we repurpose that?
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
it. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in. Be sure that you like, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss any of our amazing content. And Jenna, I'm sure we'll have you back next conversation, next
All right. I love it.
live soon.
Thank you so much.